Hi, turkeys are happy. They got some food in them. And the dogs have joined me. They decided the rain stopped enough they can join and help out. Turkeys like the creeks. They like to play. Don't like the way that pasture's turning out. I messed it all up with the excavator, or not the excavator, but the tractor. And I've had too many birds in there to let the green grass come back, so I'm probably gonna have to move all the birds out for a while and replant it and then let her come back. So you can see where there's a creek, where the water runoff was coming this way. But again, it just soaked right back into the dirt. It hasn't done much, and you can see no standing water. This is the back of the property. Past this big ugly old alder tree, the property line's probably about 30 feet into there. So we're fairly far back. And you can see where there's some campers in the background there, maybe through there. I'm not sure if it's showing up on the phone or not. But it's, yeah, the property line is basically, when you run out of trees, that's the property line. They mowed right to the property line. As far as neighbors go, campers have been extremely good. You almost never know they're there. They're owner occupied, so it's not like vacationing people when they go crazy and disrespectful. They have actually invested in their sites, so they treat it with respect. They respect their neighbors because they got to see them over and over. Okay, so we do have some significant buildup here. This water level is usually never this high. I probably should have put 2 or 3 more pipes in. And it's not that deep. The soil's not that hard, so it wouldn't be hard to fix it. But you can see on this side of it, there's a bit of flow come through that pipe. But obviously it's not enough. It can't keep up with the amount here, so it's not flooding the road, but it's getting close. It's getting close to flooding the road, so it wouldn't hurt to add 1 or 2 more pipes into there just to make sure it can handle the runoff. Thing is though, from a regenerative standpoint, if we're not flooding the road and causing damage, having that water sitting here soaking into the ground is not a bad thing. Help keep the water table charged and full. But as we walk around, it's pretty hard other than that, just that one last little culvert there, or not even a culvert, it's only a 4-inch pipe in there. Should at least be a 6-inch pipe. Other than that, it's really hard to tell. We've just had torrential rains for 2 days. If you look at the news, there's flooding all over the place, power outage, disasters for a lot of people. And yet this property, pretty much nothing. Here we're crossing another little creek. This one, the water levels never change. We gotta be a drought, we got torrential rains, it's the same all the time, and that's because it's spring fed. This creek, the water just bubbles out of the ground. I'll show you that later. It's the back of our property there. That gate is pretty close to the property line, within a foot or two. Yeah, technically it's a fire escape that we grant our neighbors, the campers, that if they ever have to get out of their property in a rush due to forest fire, they can. And the agreement lets them get a bit of a reduced rate on their insurance. But the truth is, we use this more than anybody. I didn't show you the upper part of the driveway. I pointed the camera up it, but we didn't go up there. That part's a little bit steep, and if the snow's heavy, it's a hard one to get up. It's much easier to come downhill and come up this bottom gate, and they have it all cleared. First of all, you don't get as much snow down here. Second, it melts faster. And 3, it's flatter, so it's easier to drive on. So we've always been able to get off the property by coming out this way. So yes, having that little agreement with the neighbors is good, and if somebody buys our property, they probably want to maintain that agreement. It's their choice. It's not on title, it's strictly a handshake deal, but it's a good one, and it's certainly saved our bacon more than once when we need to get out. When there's lots of snow on the ground, we couldn't get out the top part of the driveway. Hey, this is an area that I flattened out. Been working on. Could be expanded into becoming a home site or a campground, little campsite. This is a roadway that goes down to our lower pond. It's much of the same. It's never a flooding issue down there, so I'm gonna save us. I got a tree down there to clear out, just so I'm not getting wet from wet, soggy leaves on that little tree there trying to get past it. So I'm not gonna bother until I clean that tree up. But again, you can see the pathway. It's just green, no mud. This is the upper of the 2 ponds, all spring fed. Water bubbles out of the ground, forms the pond, and goes down to the lower pond. A little nice micro hydro opportunity there. But why is it? And the center of this pond never freezes because of the power of the springs coming up. It just stops it from ever completely freezing over. During our coldest winters, we do get a lot of ducks on this pond when they're having trouble finding fresh water. So between the 2 ponds, it's estimated that there's about an acre of land tied up into the 2 ponds. I've actually never measured that. Actually, I should. Google Earth has been pretty cool about that kind of stuff. Maybe I'll put that on Google Earth. I'm creating a file for our property there. All the pathways and the elevation changes and where farming is and how much land is being used for each activity. Here's the golden part of the property. It's the other side of the road from the pond. And this is what's feeding that creek that we talked about when we went over the road with it earlier before we got to the pond. I don't know if you can see it on here, but in the back there where it's light gray, that's water bubbling out of the ground. And that's the very beginning of the creek. And I don't know if you can tell from these. little gray packs where the water's bubbling out of the ground. It forms this creek. Creek that you saw down below. The beauty about all this water, it's landlocked, meaning that it doesn't come from a creek and doesn't feed a creek. It's all man-made. So even the neighbors' ponds are all man-made. And so the water bubbles out of the ground, goes through our property, or bubbles out of the ground on our property, goes into the campground next door, and then when it leaves the campground, it goes right back into the ground. So it's all landlocked, no fish creeks. Which, you know, if you want to work around water, that's actually not a bad thing. Less red tape, less bureaucracy. Just do what you think is right and you should be fine. So now we swung around. We're back to that same level where the fruit trees are and the chicken pens. And you can see that's the driveway we came down on. And I don't know if you can see across there, that's where we looked in from on the other side. But again, look at that, no mud, no standing water, just green grass for the birds. So this is an area that I flattened out for. I was actually going to do a turkey breeding barn here. Somebody else could put a barn or they could put a house. But we haven't done anything with it other than just flatten it out and let it kind of settle in and become a little ecosystem of its own. Hell, it could be a really nice little campsite. And here we go. We found some standing water. There we go. There. The one part was standing water. The whole property. It's just, yeah, I can feel it when I walk across it. There's a little hollow in the ground. It followed up. And there's some more here. What it is this little embankment here. When I was forming it, it got really soppy wet because there's a spring there. So if somebody was actually to build a building on this level, they would actually have to cut a little drainage ditch along that bank to pull the water. And I did a little bit, not a whole lot, but create a little pond here to go with this flat area. And it's almost full. It never dries up, but it also doesn't overflow a lot. I do have it so it can overflow and join that creek down below, which we saw that creek from the other side. If we look through these trees, that's where that turkey barn is, where we picked up this film. Anyway, fun little spot. The alders are here, they're a dead giveaway that there's water under the ground. But I guess that's it. Lots of potential, lots of areas. And despite all the water, what is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 4 creeks, 2 ponds, and no water issues, even after the deepest of rains. There you go. Enjoy.